Bolt Nation, if you ride with the Chargers every single day, smash that subscribe button right now, hit the like, and lock in because something is happening in Los Angeles, and I do not think enough people around the league are paying attention to it. Everybody wants the flashy headline. Everybody wants the giant offseason bombshell. Everybody wants that one move that makes the whole NFL stop and stare. But sometimes that is not how a real contender starts building steam. Sometimes it is not loud at first. Sometimes it is a series of moves, a series of signals, a series of little clues that start painting a much bigger picture. And when you line all of this up together, the draft talk, the defensive line talk, the edge room, Mack, Mike McDaniel, this backfield, all of it, the read on these Chargers starts to change in a big way. So before we even get rolling, drop a comment right now and tell me which one of these storylines has you the most fired up, because I want to hear where Bolt Nation is at today. Let's start with the draft, because this is where things get really interesting. The Chargers are sitting at number 22 overall again, same exact draft slot, and last time they were in this spot, they used it on Omarion Hampton. So naturally, the first thought for a lot of fans is simple. Get Justin Herbert more help. Give Mike McDaniel another weapon. Add more juice, more speed, more playmaking, more firepower. And honestly, that argument makes total sense. Nobody is crazy for thinking that. This offense still needs more players who can put stress on defenses and turn ordinary snaps into explosive plays. But then Mel Kiper drops a new mock, and suddenly the Chargers are tied to Clemson defensive tackle Peter Woods. And now the conversation changes completely. Because if the Chargers really go that direction, that sends a message. That says this front office may be thinking about control, violence in the trenches, and long-term dominance, not just highlight plays and fantasy football juice. And let me say this clearly because this matters. That kind of thinking wins in January. Everybody loves the shiny toy. Everybody loves the offensive name that gets fans hyped on draft night. But a destructive interior defensive lineman? A guy who can collapse the pocket, wreck timing, blow up blocking angles, and turn the middle of the line into total chaos? That changes games in a different way. That is the kind of move that can shift the entire personality of a defense. Now, to be fair, Peter Woods does not come with the cleanest production profile if you are just box score scouting. 2 sacks last season is not exactly going to make people lose their minds. Some teams are going to look at that and hesitate. Some fans are going to look at that and say, wait a second, with all the offensive needs, this is the guy? But the draft is not always about what a player already was. A lot of the time, it is about what a team believes he can become. Kiper's point was about upside, about projection, about a guy who could become a real NFL 3 tech and create havoc from the inside. And if the Chargers believe that, then this is not a random pick. This is a conviction pick. And the timing matters too. This team already extended Tier Tart. They brought in Dalvin Tomlinson. So if Woods landed in Los Angeles, he would not be walking into the building with all the pressure on his shoulders. He would not have to be the savior on day one. He would be learning inside a veteran room, rotating with grown men, getting developed in the right environment, and getting used in creative ways that let his strengths pop early. Stunts, movement, pressure packages, interior penetration, all of that could become part of the formula. That is how young defensive linemen start becoming real problems. So let me ask you this, Chargers fans. If the board fell that way, would you take Peter Woods at 22? Or are you still pounding the table for another weapon for Herbert? I need to know where the fan base stands because this is one of those picks that could divide the room fast. But let's keep going, because the next storyline is where this offseason starts feeling even more intentional. The edge room. Odafe Owe is gone. That matters. You can talk around it, you can downplay it, you can say they still have talent, and sure, all of that is true. But let's be honest, there are still questions here. Mack is back, which is huge. Tuli Polo 2 is coming off a monster year, which is also huge. Bud Dupree is still around. Kyle Kennard is still trying to prove himself. But if this defense wants to keep throwing waves of pressure at quarterbacks, if they want to keep using those 3-edge looks in obvious passing situations, if they want to keep the edge room from becoming top-heavy and thin at the same time, then adding another dependable body absolutely makes sense. And that is why the Anfernee Jennings idea is so intriguing. Not flashy, not headline dominating, not the kind of move that gets all the national shows screaming, but football people? They would get it. Jennings was released by New England, and there are several reasons why that makes him a real fit on paper. First, he is a legit run defender, and on this defense, that matters a ton. The Chargers ask a lot from their edge guys against the run. This is not just about hunting sacks. This is about setting edges, playing disciplined football, and doing the dirty work. Second, because he was released, he would not count against the compensatory pick formula. That is the kind of small front office detail that actually matters when you are building a complete roster. Third, he brings brings special teams value, and that may be the sneaky part of this whole thing, because Thule has already carried a lot there. If you can bring in a veteran edge who helps in special teams, helps in the rotation, helps against the run, and gives you one more steady, battle-tested presence in the room, that is not just depth. That is insulation. That is roster protection. That is how good teams keep their balance over the course of a season. And here is the key point. Signing a player like Jennings would not stop the Chargers from drafting an edge rusher. Not at all. In fact, it could free them up. It could take pressure off the draft and keep them from reaching. That is the kind of move that says, we are trying to compete now without boxing ourselves in later. So let me throw this at you, Bolt Nation. Would you bring in Jennings as a smart, under-the-radar addition? Or would you rather put all your chips on drafting a more explosive edge prospect? Drop that in the comments, because this is exactly the kind of debate that tells you how fans see the real needs of this team. And then there is the Khalil Mack story. And man, this one says a lot more than people realize. New offensive coordinator Mike McDaniel knows exactly what it feels like to game plan against the Chargers. He saw this defense from the other sideline multiple times when he was in Miami. So when the story comes out that after Mack re-signed, McDaniel basically told him it was nice not to have to block him anymore, that is not just a funny quote. That is respect. That is a coach who remembers the damage. That is a guy who knows exactly how disruptive Mack can still be. And that should fire this fan base up. Because let's be real, Mack did not come back just to take up space and cash a check. He is 35, yes, but he is still producing, still setting the tone, still making game-changing plays. Even in a season where he played only 12 regular season games, he still put up 32 tackles, 5.5 sacks, and 4 forced fumbles. That is not nostalgia. That is impact. That is a player who still matters when the ball is snapped. And when a veteran like that chooses to stay, that says something. It says he believes in where this team is going. It says he believes this thing still has real juice. It says the window is not being treated like some distant fantasy. It is being treated like something that is still alive right now. And that is why this matters beyond stats. Mack is not just a productive player. He is an identity player. He is a tone setter. He is one of those guys whose presence changes how a locker room feels and how an opponent prepares. And when you pair that with Tuli Tuipolotu coming off a breakout 13-sack Pro Bowl season, suddenly this pass rush still has serious teeth. Oweh is gone, yes, that is real. But the foundation is still there. The real question is whether the Chargers will finish the job and give that room one more piece to make it complete. So here is the debate I want from you. Is Khalil Mack still the heart of this defense, or is this officially Tuli's pass rush now? That is a huge question, and the answer says everything about where you think this defense is headed. Now let's talk offense, because this may be the most exciting part of all of it. Everybody spent the offseason waiting for the big splash, waiting for the fireworks, waiting for the move that would make every national analyst say, okay, now the Chargers are scary. And because that headline-grabbing moment never fully landed, a lot of people got frustrated. A lot of people looked at this offseason and said it was underwhelming. But what if the league is missing the real story? What if the dangerous part of this offseason is not a superstar signing, but the way this backfield is being assembled? Keaton Mitchell may not have been the loudest signing in the world, but do not sleep on what this could mean. If Omarion Hampton is healthy, if Kamani Vidal keeps building, and if Mitchell gives this offense that change of pace lightning bolt out of the backfield, then suddenly the Chargers could be sitting on one of the most explosive running back rooms in football. And when you combine that with Mike McDaniel, that gets really fun really fast. Because if there is one thing McDaniel understands, it is how to create speed stress. He knows how to stretch defenses horizontally, how to use motion, angles, leverage, outside zone concepts, and timing to turn one crease into a runway. He knows how to make defenders hesitate for half a second, and in the NFL, half a second is a touchdown lane. Now, we have to keep this honest. Hampton still has more to prove as a true lead back. That is fair. Vidal flashed, but he still has to do it consistently over a larger sample. Mitchell projects more as a rotational spark and special teams contributor than a featured star. Those are facts. But here is the interpretation, and I stand on it. This room has far more upside than the national conversation is giving it credit for. Some rankings barely even acknowledge the Chargers' backfield right now. That is fine. Let them sleep. Let them overlook it. Let them act like this group is an afterthought. Because if Hampton hits, if Vidal keeps developing, and if Mitchell is used in the right spots, this thing can get dangerous in a hurry. And that is where the bigger picture comes into focus. Jim Harbaugh has always wanted a reliable, physical, punishing run game. Mike McDaniel can bring creativity, explosiveness, spacing, and rhythm to that vision. Put those two ideas together, and all of a sudden this offense starts feeling different. Not just better, different. Harder to predict, harder to match up with, harder to survive for 4 quarters. And once that happens, once defenses start respecting the run game in a real way, everything opens up more for Herbert. The play action gets scarier, the movement gets cleaner, the shot plays get more dangerous. That is how an offense starts snowballing. So when you put all of these storylines together, the draft possibilities, the defensive front, the edge room, Khalil Mack still commanding respect, Thule rising, the backfield gaining real juice under Mike McDaniel, the message becomes hard to ignore. No, the Chargers may not be having the loudest offseason in the NFL. No, they may not be winning the social media championship right now, but they may be building something tougher than people realize, something deeper than people realize, and maybe, just maybe, something a lot more explosive than people realize. Nothing is guaranteed. Nobody is saying the Lombardi is already on the truck, but the direction is getting more interesting by the minute. And that is why this matters, Bolt Nation. Every move matters, every signal matters, every little clue matters, because this team does not need the whole world to believe in them right now. They just need the right pieces to click into place. So if you are rocking with the Chargers all off-season long, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop your biggest takeaway in the comments right now. Do you want Peter Woods at 22? Would you sign Anthony Jennings? Is Mack still the soul of this defense? And how high are you on this Hampton-Vidal-Mitchell trio heading into 2026? Sound off, share this with another Chargers fan, and let's talk about it. Because if these moves start hitting the way they could, the rest of the league is going to wake up way too late.